Okay, so we're live. Hi, I'm Evie Ohms Girl. And this is
Hi.
Louise.
Oh,
I'm
sorry, I
so
was muted.
That's okay. So I'm really excited to be here connecting with you. I reached out to Louise a few weeks ago. I was banned, and then I got Liz to reach out, and then I finally reached out. I feel like we first connected because of medical freedom, and just it seems like we both really value freedom, and that's like an area that, I've been following you like through Facebook and Instagram and stuff, and then I found out somewhere along the lines that we're in the same community, and you seem like you're 5 steps ahead of where I want to be with your homesteading and living off the grid and just, absorbing the health and wealth and freedom opportunities, or just like, that path with the freedom era. So yeah, I would love to just hear more about like how it all begun, kind of what sparked in you, or who reached out to you, or how sort of that beginning started for you.
Okay, awesome. Well, I'm super excited to be here. So thank you. I'm so glad that you reached out. It's so funny when people get banned, right? Because that's what happens with freedom fighters. There's always, you know, like you haven't been banned at some point, you probably aren't doing it right, But yeah, so I think that I came into the space actually through attraction marketing. I mean, it was really just that. It was like being attracted to a couple of different posts and seeing a couple of different people doing things, and just being like curious, like, well, what is this? And I used to be into like traditional network marketing because I've always kind of been entrepreneurial minded. And so like, my husband actually was in the military for like 6 years, and we lived the life completely opposite of freedom, which was like so hard. Like, even because we like dated in college, and then he was like, I'm joining the military. And I was like, ooh, I'm out. Like, I'm not going to be a military wife. Like, peace out. Like we actually separated for like a little over a year because he was joining the military. And I was like, I am not going to put myself in that life. But you can't help who you fall in love with. So we ended up back together. And, anyways, when he was gone so much. Like, he literally missed the birth of the first child, he missed walking, he missed the
Wow.
first, talking, taking away the binky, potty training. Like, he missed all of these milestones just
Wow.
because he was deployed so often. Yeah. And so, when it started getting close to the point where he was like going to be getting out soon, it's like we needed to find a way that we were going to be able to like never have to work for someone ever again. Like, military is a little extreme because he was told what he had to look like, what he had to wear, where he had to live, like everything was like decided for him. So we wanted more freedom than that, but we wanted freedom, like
And the
freedom,
medical
freedom that,
freedom part too, right? Like you have to do certain things with your body sometimes, especially if you're
oh yeah.
deployed. Like it's strict with some of those things. Like,
Oh yeah. I mean, he would just be lined up and, they would just walk down with a cooler and just be jabbing people. And he'd be like, no, I already got mine. And they're like, well, we don't have it on the list. And he's like, that's because you walk around with a cooler and you don't record it. And they just double jab. Yeah. I mean, it's really bad. It's like,
wow.
so that's another part of it. It's like you don't want to subject yourself to that anymore. So anyway, so yeah, we were brought in through attraction marketing. We were just like, yeah, this seems really awesome. And when we learned about what it was, the product I'm really aligned with as far as like health and wellness and like being proactive and preventative with health, it's always something that I've been really, really into ever since I became a mom, like 10 years ago. So I was like, this just totally fits. And it's like, I always tell people, it's like, what we do now is getting paid to be a voice for the health and freedom movement and like talk about things that are really being able to help people not just escape the matrix within like the medical matrix, because we want to be proactive with our own health, and this what we promote is very much proactive with our own health, but also ways of just like getting out of the systems that they want to keep us. So so many people, it's like they can't get out of their systems because they either have a job that they have to like follow some sort of a rules around, or there's something that they have to like stay connected in. It's like, why
Yeah.
not just disconnect altogether? And when you have an opportunity that allows you to do that, that's what we have here. I mean, we have an opportunity that allows you to, if you plug in, you do the work, you have to be willing to do the work, but like you really truly can create whatever it is that you want with this, and
Yeah.
unplug
Yeah. In
yourself.
like 2, 3 hours. And I mean, 2, 3 hours, like where can you, earn this kind of income, especially over a little bit of
Right.
time with 2, 3 hours a day, and you can like do it from the beach. Like I live in Dominica, you're off the grid, like,
Yeah.
but yeah. And how long
How
how
many?
long has it taken you? Like how long have you been sort of in this freedom era, and using the high ticket with the Kangen water? How long have you been in this space?
We'll be coming up on 3 years when we get towards the end of this year.
Yeah, which is still pretty amazing for 3 years to be able to live more of, because it seems like you're living kind of your dream life in some ways, like a lot of what you've created.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like when you think about 3 years, like that's a long time. But then when you really think about 3 years in the grand scheme of things, it's not long at all.
No,
for
it's
what
not.
you can like. I've actually been an owner of a Sticks and Prigs business that I recently closed down like 2 months ago, I think, or actually sold it. I didn't close it down. But with the amount of money that I put into that, with the amount of effort that I put into that, with how many months I had so much overhead that I barely even, sometimes I wouldn't even be breaking even. I mean, like, usually I would make but there was so much that went into it. And it's like here, it's like, yeah, we're like off the grid. I mean, obviously we have satellite internet or I wouldn't be able to come live for you here, but like we're run completely on solar. We're, growing a lot of our own food. We're raising our own animals. We've got, there's aspects of it that like, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful life that we've created, but there's also some really hard aspects of it. So I don't want to make it sound like it's all like peachy keen and fun. I mean, like, yes, this is what we choose. But there's a lot of challenges that come with this, but it's what we want. And that's what freedom is to me. It's like freedom is the choice. Some people want to create an abundant life so that they can go off and, maybe buy fancy cars and live, extreme, like what people get to choose. Like my choice is the opposite direction. I'm like, I just want to go in a tent and
which is your office, right? That's an office. I love it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so, but that's what freedom
too. I saw a little bit of like, you have more freedom to do things like that too, right? Which I want to do more rescue work here, living here in Dominica. It's like there's so many. We rescued one dog, but you have more of that freedom too, where it's like you can put your resources in different ways that you can be kind of stuck again when you're military or living this sort of matrix box of a life, right? Like you have more of that freedom as well to be of service, kind of in that way. I feel like.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I feel like when you're resourced in such a way, then you can give back in big ways. And I always said that when my business was abundant enough, then I was going to give back in really big ways. And I used to be an activist, a hardcore activist. I was that mom that was at every anti-GMO rally. We used to call Monsanto was Monster Anto in our house because my kids from a very young age were like aware of like Monsanto and GMOs and blah 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 and like going down the vaccine.
And especially in North America, you have to be like you just have to be. Here, I feel like it's less present, but in North America, it's like insane. You have to be aware. Like it's just crazy.
Right. I mean, you have to be an advocate for yourself. Otherwise, you're just gonna, if you believe that everything that's being sold on the shelf is, it must be safe because it's in, like, it's not, it's not. But even in my activist days, even spending some time, I spent some time at Standing Rock. I don't know if you guys remember Standing Rock and back when all that stuff was going on with the pipeline, all that stuff. Like, I feel like there's ways that being an activist and spending time at the Capitol and fighting. And like, at the end of the day, it was like, I don't feel like I was making as much of a difference as I really wanted to make a difference. But
it's a brick wall.
And so like the more resource I became as financially goes, I'm able to actually give back in really, really huge ways and actually donate to organizations that are making a really huge difference from the inside. I work really closely with Children's Health Defense. And I think what you're referring to is the Nurse Freedom Network with nurses that are out there, trying to protect not just nurses' rights, but also patients' rights and informed consent and like all the things that are like so important, So it's like, I can stand in front of a building and hold signs and rah, and yell, and like whatever, like I've done for so many years. But I felt like I'm making a bigger difference now being able to give back to some of these organizations that are very organized in the way that they are making differences and truly are making a big impact. It feels good to be able to be a part of that. So.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. I feel like, I too started my own business, like, I don't know, 5 years ago, and I still pay for my website and stuff. And I was actually just talking to my website guy. It's my best friend's husband. And I was like, I'm still paying. And I'm like, like, where is it going? Like, I'm not doing anything with it. And same with education. Mm-hmm. It's like, I've spent all this time and, none of that totally goes to waste. But again, with 3 years, you've really created this life. And in that, it's like, you're impacting people from the inside in the sense of like, I also saw one of these stories of a woman who she does yoga retreats, and you went to go meet her, and she, is one of your like part of your team or whatever. But it's like we get to meet on that level too, where it's like the process and just like within the community, it's like global, and we really are shifting our lives to create more of the life we want in that way, and just meeting so many people. And not that school doesn't do that, not that your business doesn't do that, because it does it in its own way. But I feel like it really just is this like beautiful bubble where you're like free, but also supported in a way. Yeah, can you talk a little bit about how you've maybe felt supported in just being able to grow in the way that you want with your path, but just feeling that sort of community and support here?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really big thing is being surrounded by like-minded people, and there are so many people to, everybody here is a little different, right? So we all have our own, part of why we all end up with attraction marketing, it's like in some sort of way you're being attracted by somebody in some way to a certain place. And we all usually have some sort of similarities, but we're all also different. And so we don't really fit into a box. Like we're here because we're the ones that jumped out of the box and said, stop trying to put me in a freaking box, like I don't belong in a box. So we all get to kind of like make our own path through our own business, but have the support and guidance from other people, being able to look at other people of saying, okay, but how do they do this? This is how they, and like, yeah, like meeting with different people and just like being, supportive through a global community, because it's not just here in the United States. I mean, we're talking like a big, greater part of our organization or community or collective is in Australia. And I have a global
And more
team.
and
I have
more
a
in
pretty
Costa Rica as well. Like there's a lot in Costa Rica and Bali as well, right?
Yes, yes, and even in the UK is starting to grow pretty
Yeah.
big as well. And so like we all just, it's like we found each other online. It's like I had this love-hate relationship. I'm sure we all do, like so many times I've thought about closing my social media accounts. Like this is just blah blah blah, but like at the end of the day, like we wouldn't be where we are right
Yeah.
now. Like I would have never met you. I would have never met some of these amazing people that are in, in the collective now if it wouldn't be for social media and like what it was able to bring together for us. So
Right.
so I think the community is a huge part. Entrepreneurship can be a lonely road, but it doesn't have to be a lonely road when you have a community like we have, where you get to stay connected. And my daughter is sneaking in behind me.
That's cute. I was wondering if it was an animal or if it's your daughter. Oh, that's so cute.
She's a borderline animal, but yeah.
Oh, that's so sweet. Okay, so what did it look like 3 years ago as you stepped into this space? How did you kind of go from step A to step B to step C to be where you are, like in step E or whatever you're in now? What was the sort of accountability with yourself? Like definitely the 3 pillars. I'm kind of assuming that you utilize the automation and just the education and stuff, but how did you kind of, create the goals and then just like went for it? And like, what did some of the step by step look like a little bit?
I would say
the business side to like come it to get like, I know it's a huge question because there's probably like a million little steps, but.
Right. I would say that the biggest thing was just remaining with trust that things and consistency. Yeah. Because I think that for my business, it actually took a little bit, to get started. Like it was like a very slow going process. For me, it was like, I'm a very energetic person. So I'm usually like, I've always got like 25 things going on at one time. Right. And so like, for me, it was like just happening like really slow, but I kept having to know that like, and just trust that all the work that's going into, and I'm an unschooler. And so what I love talking about is like my kids are unschooled. Like we don't believe in like, we believe that education happens all the time. Like there's not like a separate place where you're learning. Like we're constantly learning all the time. And so when this whole idea of like personal branding was brought into my attention, I was like, oh, well, this is like a similar concept of like unschooling. It's like, you don't have to separate your life from your work. Like your life gets to be your work. Like you don't have to be like, I mean, I do have an office. I do have certain, dedicated work hours, but like really, truly like the work is being yourself, showing up as yourself, sharing your values with the world, and then bringing in, whatever it is that you're aligning with, which with us, it's Kangen water, and so it's like, then you have a product attached to it. So when you have your personal brand, you're talking about yourself, you're being yourself, you're just kind of like, you're letting your life flow, like your content is your life. You don't have to do anything different. You don't have to be anything different. You just get to be yourself. And then you bring in the product, and the product is, Kangen water. And it's like, as long as that aligns with your values and what you believe in, which obviously it does for me and you. And if anyone's watching this, if it aligns for you too, then like, it's a no brainer, because you literally can just plug into, using your life that you already are living, that you already are, inspiring other people to go out and live the life that they want to live. And while you do that, you get to create an income. I mean, it's like, it almost sounds too good to be true sometimes. And I remember like when I first was like watching like one of these like webinars or something, and I was like, with my natural skeptical brain, I was like, be paid to be yourself. I'm like, that's ridiculous. Like nobody's paid to be themselves, you know? And it's like, but then the more, yeah, but like the more that you like actually are like, okay, well, let me just take a look real quick and stop being so skeptical, which is something that I've definitely gained over the past 3 years. Is I'm not as much of a skeptic anymore. I'm always looking into things, but I'm no longer just immediately shutting things out because I think it sounds too good to be true. Because I've learned it's not too good to be true. This is a business model that exists. It's a business model that can change your entire freaking life if you let it. Like you have to let it, but if you let it, it will change your life. And just being open to, you know, receiving whatever it is, whatever the information that you're being resistant to, like find out why you're being resistant to it and be open to like changing that resistance. Because if you don't, then you're never gonna, nothing will ever change, right? You'll never get what you're looking for if you're not open to allowing yourself to experience what it is that you're resisting.
Which is, just I think the most amazing part, because I always love learning and I've done way too many schools. And so just the growth part and the like self-development and personal development of really, like you said, you're just looking at yourself and looking at like where there's resistance, like with money or with time, or like you said, with, you know, social media and how we're using it, because there can be resistance to all of that, but then utilizing all of that to keep growing, which helps your daily life. And then I feel like we get to be more of an artist in our daily life to then, you know, show up in that way. Like, you know, we're always whole, but then showing up even more like our full self and just like not holding back as much, right? Like, I think it kind of just nudges us to show up more fully ourselves, right?
Right. Yeah, totally.
And yeah, the water. Okay, so I know we both love the water, and I asked a little bit about with the homesteading, how you've used the water, and you said right now because you're off grid, you're using it a little bit more with the 2.5 with the hypochlorous acid, but you're drinking the water like in your home. Like, can you talk a little bit about how you're using the water with the homesteading and just how that's unfolding for you?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't think I would be able, I mean, I shouldn't say I wouldn't be able to not drink the water because that's ridiculous. I would definitely drink water if I, you know, but I have a system out here. It's just that we have issues with water. We're not tied into anything. We were getting water in very creative ways. We went through a very severe drought over the summer. And so like, it was just really hard for us, but right now we're fine. We have the water, we're drinking it. It's just not hooked up in my camper. So we actually have a situation out here. We have a camper that we're living in. We also have another camper that we were living in, but it was like very small. And we're building a castle. Actually, it sounds
That's the hemp
to say,
right?
Yes, yeah. So we're building like we have these 2 turrets. Yeah, with the grain bins, and then we have the hempcrete that we're building on the back wall, and then we have like a big courtyard. So we have all this stuff going on, and it's going to be like a multi-year project. So we started realizing we're like, we need a bigger camper because the one that we were living in was just like very small for like what we're doing. So we run out of water really quickly. And when we run out of water, we have to go and like actually go get water and like bring it in. So it's not like we just have, you know, most people are so used to being able to just turn a faucet on and like you just have access to running water like all the time. Like we do have water, but we just have to go and get it. So we just have to be a little bit more careful with it. We save all of the water. That's one thing is like with the Kangen systems, you know, you have your alkalized water coming out the top and then you have an acidic water coming out the bottom. Like we're making sure to save all of that if we need to use it for our dishes, if we need to use it for whatever we need to use it for. Like no water gets wasted around here whatsoever. So just know,
which is true sustainability, really.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like water is a precious resource, and I don't think most people appreciate it for what it is because, like I said, most people just are used to being able to just turn on a faucet and just have unlimited amount of water. Like even in some countries where the water might not necessarily be clean, like they still have water. Like water's there available, you know, most of the time. But so no, we're still using it. We're still drinking it. I mean, it's made such a difference in my health. Like I would not want to, it's hard to drink other water. Like it's whenever we do go like if we ever have a time where we're running out of the water, it's like, no, like you can't, I'll go to my friend's house who lives like 5 minutes down the road and I'll go fill up 5-gallon jugs from her house and be like, I just need some Kangen water. But yeah, we use it in a lot of ways. We use it for the 2.5 is huge on the homestead. You know, the 2.5, which is hypochlorous acid, you're creating a really, really strong disinfectant. I mean, you're talking about being able to clean everything that you can possibly imagine. Even when we have harvest days out here, when we harvest like our pigs or whatever, you know, we have this big, you know, this cutting board that has to be like sanitized and, you know, and it's like, we use our hypochlorous acid. Like we don't bring in any chemicals. Because then I'm going to go cut up my meat on this and then I'm going to have to like eat that. Right. Like I don't want to do that. So it's like, I use something that's more natural. It's like, it has a disinfecting capabilities of bleach, but it's not going to harm me like bleach.
Which they use in Japan for medical devices as well, right? Like to clean medical equipment and all that.
Right. Exactly. We also use it for, you're talking fungus, bacteria, like anything in the plants, you know, like I actually have watched myself. I don't really like to use anything if I cannot, you know, like if anything, if I've got pest on a plant and it's, you know, sometimes I'll just sacrifice a plant and hope that they all go to that one plant and let that one plant die. And then the rest of them can, you know, I have like different methods. I try not to use anything, but sometimes, especially when it comes to caterpillars and cabbage loopers and like they're everywhere and they are not like going anywhere. And it's like all of your efforts, all of your work can literally go out the window if you don't control that, you know? And so I go by hand and I squish them, and I used to hate it because I'm like like I don't want to say anti-killing, but like I don't know if you saw my stories the other day. I mean, I took a little black widow and like saved him and like brought him to the top of my property and we're like released him into the woods because I don't like to kill an insect if I don't have to. It's like I feel like everything plays a role. It's like our ecosystem they're there for a reason, you know, but when they're eating all my food, I'm like, look, it's either you or me. And like, no, I put way too much work into this. Like you got to go. But anyways, the 2.5 is really good at, you know, pest control and even fungus, which is huge for us down in the southern part of the United States. I mean, because we're a very humid climate. It's not something I'm used to when I used to live in California. I didn't have to deal with half the stuff I have to deal with here. It's like, it's a lot harder.
I had to use it a little bit on my skin too, because of the fungus that came from it being so humid here in Dominican Republic too.
Yeah. That's a great point. You can spray it on like it's not harmful. So like you could literally spray it all over your body if you wanted to, and you don't have to worry about so that's really awesome. And then even just like even like our starts and stuff, I would definitely won't say that I water my garden with I wish I could. I wish I had enough power down in enough water to actually go irrigate, but I irrigate. We like gravity irrigate from a pond. So our pond sits at a second level of our property. And then we have a pipe coming from the pond and it goes down into the garden and we irrigate from pond water. So I wish we could irrigate with Kangen, but what I will say is I use with my starts and stuff, seed starting, it's really great. Like they really respond well to germinating in living water. Like it's really amazing. So we use it in a lot of ways when I can and ferment. Like the other day, I just did a whole big thing of fermented jalapenos. I literally picked 500 jalapenos off of my plants. I used to have to go and boil, you know, like get a big jar of water or like a big pan of water and boil it and have to like put all my sanitize everything. But that's a lot of water to go through that I'm not really going to, you know, obviously I find other uses for it or whatever. But now we can just create a little bit of 2.5. I shake up every single jar, pour it in the next one, shake it all up again. And then my jars are sanitized without me having to waste a whole bunch of water. Like it's really like, if you're a homesteader and you do not have a Kangen system at your home, like you're so missing out, like totally missing out. Yesterday I just made a huge batch of bone broth and like you're talking about really truly extracting like the minerals that are so good for your bones and your joint health and like all the things that are so good for us, like the benefits that we want from the bones are going to be extracted so much more efficiently by using structured water versus using regular well or tap or whatever it is. It even gets really super gelatiny and like the collagen is just really being pulled out. I mean, it's just so good. Like my bone broth has never been that amazing. And I was like, okay, like we're totally onto something. If for nothing else in the world, if you just had a Kangen system to make this really healthy bone broth, like that would be worth it. As a nutritionist, you know how amazing bone broth is. You know, like so.
Yeah, totally. Which we have to make more of it here. It's hard because it's so hot that we did do it a little bit in the winter, but it's like with soups and things like that. It's like I want to eat that kind of stuff, but it's like I don't know. And I just can't have cold soup. Like I'm not into gazpacho or whatever they call it. Like I'm just, you know, but it's so good. Yeah. For gut health and everything. So I do have some collagen, but okay. So last kind of final words. We'll put your Instagram or do you have a website or something? If people just want to check out more of your homesteading stuff, we can add that in the comments.
We don't have a website at the moment. We're just, you can go on Instagram, which is our Big Rad Life. We're switching over. We actually we just got a PMA started. It's Forgotten Ways PMA, but we're not quite there yet. So we don't have anything up. So Instagram is perfect. Or YouTube if you want to follow along on the Castle Project is going to be fun.
Okay, cool. And so just final words, like if someone's thinking about doing kind of the business or getting in the water, I know you mentioned some amazing things about the water and the business side with freedom and just, you know, health-wise with the water. What's kind of like, was there any final words that sort of attracted you that maybe you want to just give, you know, something just like, you know, just go for it, or I don't know, something that you wish kind of you had learned about earlier, or, you know, if people are sort of on the fence, is there anything that you would want to recommend or just say that maybe would help them to just dive in because we both love it and, you know, you're 5 steps ahead of me and a few years in, but like, yeah.
Well, I would say to, check into some, like when I first got this system, it's like I was really interested in just in the benefits of the drinking water because I have spent so many years chronically dehydrated, and I was just so excited to get like really good structured water into my cells, my body, and like all that stuff. What I didn't realize was all of the other ways that I was going to use the water. And so that was really like, even just for the health benefits of this drinking water alone, like to me is worth it, like 100%. Like,
Yeah,
but at first, when I first was looking at the, thinking about what machine we were going to get and what we were going to do. And like, I was looking at the price because that's always going to be, and something that's going to come up. It's like, okay, well, how much is this going to cost me? And what is this going to be worth? And it's like, I really, really, really recommend looking at what the value is going to be, not necessarily just the cost of something. What's the value over a long period of time? Like what, and on top of that, what are you going to save from being able to own one of these systems? So it's like you get, I mean, for me, it's like this win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win situation. Like you're getting amazing. It's like amazing drinking water, all of these different ways to use it to like keep your, maintain a really low toxic environment for your home and your homestead, if that's what you do. And then you also have a business opportunity to share with people if they want to, if they're into health and wellness. And, I really believe that people are starting to pay more attention to their health than they ever have before. And it's like, this is something that like water is foundational for your health. Like it doesn't matter what else you do, even if you have the best diet in the world, even if you work out, even if you meditate for all of your stress and you try to handle your trauma, like if you are not properly hydrating your cells, like the foundation is cracked and there's nothing to build on top of. Like even if you build on top of it, eventually it will, it's cracked. So I would just say, don't just look at the cost of something, but look at the value of what you're going to get out of it. And then also the value that you may be able to provide for other people if you decide to also join in on the business side of it, because we do have an amazing product and we have an amazing community and we have an amazing opportunity that if you grab it and take advantage of it, it can change your life, but you just have to be willing to let it do that.
Yeah, I just got shivers from you saying that. Thank you so much. It was so beautiful to connect with you. I was so excited to do this. And yeah, it was just amazing to hear all of, what you shared here today. And I hope you have a beautiful day. And thanks to everyone who tuned in, or #replay if you're watching on the replay. And yeah, have a beautiful Tuesday.
Awesome. Thanks, Evie. Bye.
Thanks, Louise.